When life's adversaries decide to litter your path with obstacles, sharp, painful attempts at sabotage, they're unwittingly gathering the raw materials for your ultimate elevation. This is the unseen law of consequence, a cosmic principle that mandates balance. The precise, malicious energy an enemy deploys to trip you up will inevitably loop back, binding their own hands and feet in the end. It's a fundamental truth. Some people simply don't engage in fair competition. They contaminate the environment. They aren't interested in climbing higher themselves. They're fixated on applauding the moment you slip and fall. They pray for your failure and anticipate your demise as if it were essential to their very existence. But the universal scale is a quiet, meticulous auditor, and it keeps a perfect record of who pushed, who pulled, and, most importantly, who simply kept growing. They genuinely believed that witnessing your struggle would offer a gratifying, sweet taste of victory. What they failed to account for is the bitter and corrosive aftertaste of their own envy. They analyzed your life with the intensity of a scientist examining a new specimen, confident they had secured front row seating for your inevitable public breakdown. They never realized, however, that every deliberate obstacle they placed in your way served only to hone and sharpen your character. Much like dragging a piece of soft iron across hard stone to forge steel. The more intensely they attempted to extinguish your light, the more intensely your focus narrowed and burned. The ultimate irony hits when the very shadow cast by their efforts to block your progress ultimately finds itself in desperate need of the light you now radiate. They shot their insults like a volley of arrows, completely forgetting that an arrow can only fly after being pulled back and away from its target. Understand this deeply. Chosen one, your eventual rise is not a random occurrence. It is the calculated and devastating aftershock of their efforts. Your success acts as a silent but blaring alarm, the noise that keeps your hidden detractors awake at night because they are now forced to confront a reality they never planned for. The person they so desperately attempted to bury in the darkness did not vanish as intended. You did the opposite. You simply grew deeper roots. Before we proceed further, do yourself a favor. Hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Do this not just as a routine gesture, but as a direct, clear reminder to every concealed enemy that your current silence is not an indicator of weakness. It is a period of intense and strategic preparation. Because from this moment forward, we are not planning to tread quietly any longer. We are here to arrive, unapologetically and loudly. Before you absorb another word, grasp this truth firmly. What you are engaging with now is not mere entertainment or casual motivational talk. This is confirmation of a fundamental shift. The powerful internal changes you've been experiencing, the sudden, crystal, clear mental clarity, the pervasive calm that has naturally replaced your urge to react impulsively. None of this happened by chance. It is a profound, undeniable process of evolution. If you are still here, reading this, it confirms that you are not simply idly curious. You are actively aligning with a new, higher version of yourself, a version that no external force can possibly trap, trick, or ultimately tame. Therefore, before we unlock the next crucial layer of this understanding, execute 3 simple but powerful actions. Tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, and immediately drop the number 99 into the comments section. This is your personal declaration, marking the exact moment you completely stopped allowing yourself to be underestimated by anyone. Only those who are truly ready for this reality will move past this point. This message is not merely designed to offer general motivation. It is evidence of what's already unfolding within you. The first critical insight: never mistake genuine silence for genuine weakness. Always employ it as a deliberate strategy. There is a common assumption among the small-minded that the quietest person in the room is already mentally defeated. They misinterpret silence as an act of surrender, or assume that your calm composure simply masks confusion or a lack of understanding. But silence, when utilized correctly and intelligently, is never just a simple pause in the action. It functions as a powerful, untraceable weapon, a weapon with no fingerprints. Your detractors, in their attempts to measure you, assumed you were finished simply because you weren't loudly defending every single action, a rookie error often made by those who mistake mere noise for actual strength. They've seen countless impulsive talkers crumble when faced with real-world pressure. However, your approach was different. You chose not to scream, you refused to chase after false validation, and you didn't attempt to convince a single soul of your worth. Instead, you dedicated your energy to upgrading yourself quietly, intelligently, and with a permanent commitment to excellence. While they were wasting their precious time rehearsing imaginary verbal victories and shallow insults, you were systematically building impenetrable mental and emotional armor. You did not merely survive their betrayals and disappointments. You actively mined them, you melted down the trauma, and you skillfully forged it into something infinitely sharper and more useful. Every single disappointment was treated as raw, valuable material, which you meticulously refined until it became potent fuel for your ascent. True strength never needs to aggressively flex its muscles. It simply and undeniably evolves, and it is this quiet, relentless evolution that truly unsettles and confuses them. They don't spend time discussing you because they harbor genuine admiration. They discuss you obsessively because they cannot accurately measure the depth of your resilience, your clarity, or your capacity for growth. And anything that they cannot easily measure immediately triggers their deepest insecurities and fear of the unknown. You need to fully comprehend the psychology that drives their continuous, agitated behavior. They don't see you as someone who merely got lucky or caught a break. They evaluate you with suspicion, seeing you as an unnerving glitch in their predictable system of control. They thought they had perfect knowledge of your emotional breaking points, your typical reaction patterns, and all your underlying vulnerabilities. They anticipated highly predictable responses, tears, shouting, emotional confrontation, and ultimately, a complete collapse. Instead, you became utterly unreadable. And for those who rely heavily on emotional manipulation to sustain their power, an unreadable person is the most dangerous element in the room. Every single time you made the conscious choice of dignified silence over cheap drama, every instance of prioritizing your self-respect over a trivial argument, and every dedicated push toward progress over the foolish impulse to prove yourself, they felt the very ground beneath their feet shift a little more. They simply do not possess the mental framework for how to respond to someone who does not desperately beg for their clarity, does not chase after their version of closure, and does not fight tooth and nail to be believed or validated. To their manipulative minds, your silence is profoundly unsettling because it indicates you are in possession of crucial knowledge that remains hidden from them. And the deepest human fear is always reserved for what is not willingly or easily revealed. Here is the truth that truly cuts them deep. You utterly refuse to allow their actions to fundamentally rewrite your core personality. Their original goal was to mold you into a bitter, hyper-insecure, paranoid, and intensely defensive version of yourself. They desperately wanted you to lose your essential goodness and light so that they could then triumphantly point and declare, "See, I knew they would eventually become exactly like this," but their plan spectacularly failed. You remained completely grounded, fully aware, and perfectly aligned with your highest values. You did this not because it was the easy path, but because becoming like them would have been the ultimate, most humiliating defeat. They are now left scrolling through the evidence of your escalating success with teeth clenched, struggling to fully comprehend how someone they had so thoroughly planned to break emerged stronger and more composed than anyone else in their circle. They fully expected you to slowly fade away into obscurity, but instead you expanded, transforming into a person who no longer fits within the cramped, limited perceptions they constructed for you. They may still whisper their gossip, and they might pretend they are completely indifferent, yet they compulsively revisit your progress like a frustrating, unsolvable problem they can't let go of. You are not the source of confusion. You are the irrefutable proof that every single one of their manipulative tactics was fundamentally weak. You did not lose control of yourself, you masterfully achieved it, and your silence was never the absence of power, it was the decisive evolution of it. You are not what they expected to see, you are the powerful reality their entire false narrative feared the most. The second crucial insight: stop blindly trusting the mask, start watching for the cracks and the telling truth. Leaks. Chosen one, the most costly error you ever committed in your past was the naive assumption that every single person who approached you operated with the same core level of honesty that you possess. You looked directly into faces and readily believed the outward expressions and practiced gestures, completely failing to realize that some people have trained their external emotions with the tireless dedication of professional actors rehearsing a complex script. They did not approach you with authentic truth. They approached you wearing elaborate, meticulously crafted costumes. The very moment you stopped accepting the face as the true identity, every fundamental aspect of your world and relationships changed forever. Understand that certain individuals do not actually reveal their true selves. They consciously present a carefully curated version. They do not truly communicate. They actively perform. They construct these highly polished, marketable versions of the person they desperately wish they were, not the flawed, messy person they actually are beneath the surface. While the masses are easily fooled and fall for the dramatic performance, you began a deeper study, analyzing the nervous pauses, the subtle shifts in tone, the sudden bursts of nervous, hollow laughter, the critical questions they deliberately never answered, and the small, inconvenient details they fervently hoped you would overlook. That is where the genuine truth inevitably leaked out, not in the polished script of what they said, but in the glaring, honest gaps they simply could not manage to hide. Their entire house of confidence was built upon the shaky foundation of your continued innocence and naivete. They genuinely believed that if they looked and sounded convincing enough, you would never dare to question the underlying details or the inconsistencies in their story. But you developed a new, highly specialized skill: silent observation. You learned to read hidden intentions, not just voices. You studied the recurring patterns of behavior, not empty promises. You measured their consistency, not their immediate, superficial charm. Once you fully activated this powerful level of awareness, all of their carefully constructed illusions began to crumble effortlessly, without you needing to initiate a single confrontation. Nothing exposes a calculated pretender faster than being observed by someone who simply refuses to react emotionally. When you stopped relying on their external presentation and began analyzing the internal alignment between their words and their actions, the cracks appeared almost magically. Their fabricated stories began to clash. Their overall energy felt obviously rehearsed. Their words suddenly became heavy, hollow, and utterly inauthentic. They could sense your sharpened awareness even if you never spoke a word. And in that moment, fear completely replaced their false sense of control. Remember this unchanging truth, chosen one. Genuine, authentic people do not fear being fully seen. Only performers live in constant fear of an audience that begins to pay true attention to the details. The third vital action: quit playing their rigged game, detach fully and forcefully reclaim control over your own life. There comes a definitive point in your journey where you finally realize that the most strategic and dangerous move you could possibly make is not shouting back, confronting, or trying to prove your worth against a wall of denial. It is the simple, powerful act of removing yourself completely from their designated battlefield. They built a system, a game, that was specifically designed for you to lose, rules that were changed mid-match, venomous accusations thinly disguised as innocent questions, toxic silent treatments used as cruel punishments, and emotional traps set as cleverly hidden mines. Their primary goal was to keep you perpetually reactive, confused, and constantly exhausting yourself with explanations. Why? Because as long as you were responding, you were participating, and your participation was the single, most vital source of their meager power. But the instant you finally detached, the entire rigged game board collapsed beneath them. When you stopped futilely defending your past, they lost their ability to control the narrative. When you ceased responding to their bait, they lost their script. When you genuinely stopped caring about their shallow validation, they lost their last remaining shred of authority over you. You did not achieve victory by out-arguing them in a messy verbal brawl. You won by making the entire interaction utterly irrelevant to your present and future. Manipulators do not thrive in the clear, sharp light of truth. They thrive only in the murky waters of emotional engagement. They need you to be emotionally invested, mentally drained, and spiritually distracted from your true mission. They needed your predictable reactions like a constant supply of air, not because they genuinely wished to understand you, but because they sought to control the emotional temperature of your mind and well-being. The single most powerful move you ever executed was shifting your relentless focus from trying to desperately prove your inherent worth to diligently and fiercely protecting it. You stopped auditioning for emotionally vacant spaces that simply did not deserve the brilliance of your time and energy. You stopped providing lengthy explanations to people who were fundamentally and absolutely committed to misunderstanding you. And you completely stopped watering the dead relationships that only ever produced toxic weeds. Now they are left pathetically replaying your old conversations in their minds, waiting for the defensive, emotional responses that will never arrive. They constantly check your energy and life progress like someone checking a firmly locked door for which they no longer possess the key. They do not miss you. They desperately miss the easy, constant access they once had. And that is the exact, crushing moment they finally discovered the truth they spent so long avoiding. You were never truly trapped in their game. You were simply choosing not to play with them anymore. And that chosen one is precisely why you won the war. The fourth crucial insight: let the quiet, powerful force of karma handle their lies. Stay perfectly still and watch their own edifice fall. Chosen one, there is an inherent, silent justice system perfectly built into the very fabric of life. A system that requires zero input from your hands, your voice, or your efforts. It only requires your unwavering patience and clarity. When people actively twist stories, manufacture elaborate illusions, or paint you in the distorted, ugly colors they wish were true, do not rush to correct their narrative. Falsehood is not a permanent weapon. It operates like a boomerang. It is always destined to return with amplified force to the careless hand that launched it, even if its trajectory seems longer and more erratic than you expected. While they recklessly wasted their energy and breath manufacturing these toxic narratives, you diligently invested your silent focus into relentless, intentional growth. That is why, right now, they are visibly unraveling and collapsing, while you are steadily and powerfully evolving. Understand this deeply. Any individual who attempts to construct their personal or public reputation solely on fabrication and lies is destined to eventually collapse beneath the crushing weight of their own unstable script. You do not require public revenge, lengthy explanations, or an aggressive public defense. Your only requirement is to remain steady, laser-focused, and absolutely unwilling to step a single foot into the chaotic performance staged exclusively for your downfall. When a person throws mud in your direction, the only thing they conclusively reveal is the filthy condition of their own hands. You, on the other hand, made the strategic choice to keep your hands and intentions impeccably clean. And now, the stark difference between their chaos and your peace is becoming painfully visible to everyone. Your intentional stillness is not a sign of ignorance. It is high-level strategy. Your radiating calm is not an expression of weakness. It is irrefutable evidence of your inner strength. Your resolute silence is not surrender. It is the ultimate expression of your self-respect. Life is designed to expose hidden intentions without your involvement. People will inevitably realize who was authentic and who was merely performing for attention. And the most powerful move you ever made was your categorical refusal to participate in a petty, draining battle that would have inevitably lowered your inherent value. While they spend their days whispering their pointless gossip, you continue to silently ascend. While they make lazy, false assumptions about your future, you are actively transforming your reality. While they plot your imaginary downfall, you are systematically preparing for your next great leap. They genuinely believed that their toxic stream of lies would permanently bury you, but they only succeeded in completely burying their own credibility. Your name did not lose its meaning or power. Theirs did. The truth never rushes to the scene, but it never, ever loses the final verdict, and the one who remains perfectly grounded and centered always survives and outlives the storm. Chosen one, remember this above all. The loudest, most humiliating downfall they will ever experience will be one caused entirely by their own hands, never by your deliberate retaliation. The fifth and final vital insight: hold your genuine power quietly. Real authority never needs to perform for approval. Chosen one, listen to this fundamental truth closely and internalize it. Your genuine, authentic power was never intended to be loudly displayed for the masses. It was meant to be deeply and subtly felt by all who encounter you. The loud, attention-seeking personalities perform constantly because they are paralyzed by the terrifying fear of being forgotten or deemed irrelevant. The truly powerful ones move with quiet, deliberate silence because they possess an internal, unshakable certainty that they simply cannot be replaced by anyone. You are not here on this earth to convince a single person of your inherent strength or value. You are here to fundamentally embody it in every action you take. And that is exactly why they failed to notice the exact moment you fundamentally became untouchable, until it was definitively too late to do anything about it. They anticipated you would be just like everyone else, constantly attempting to prove yourself, desperately over-explaining your choices, and fighting tooth and nail for external validation, perpetually trapped in the cycle of approval addiction. But instead, you subtly began operating from an entirely different, higher frequency, the frequency of unshakable internal authority. You made the conscious decision to stop sharing every single move, every new dream, every calculated plan, and every victory with the public. You quickly learned that privacy is the greatest form of power, and that mystery is a shield that no enemy can mentally or emotionally dismantle. When they lost all dependable access to your spontaneous reactions, your genuine emotions, and your true intentions, they simultaneously lost the critical ability to accurately predict, strategically influence, or effectively disarm you. Understand this difference. Real, lasting dominance is not achieved by being the loudest voice demanding attention. It is achieved by being the singular presence that others simply cannot mentally pin down, predict, or manipulate. You consciously shifted your focus from a need for proving yourself to the permanent act of becoming your highest self, and that is when everything in your life fundamentally changed. Silence became your primary strategic tool. Calm composure became your impenetrable mental armor, and emotional restraint evolved into your most significant, decisive advantage. They mistakenly confuse your quietness for emptiness or a lack of activity, forgetting the essential fact that a powerful bomb makes absolutely no sound right before it detonates with devastating force. You no longer require the fleeting, superficial energy of the spotlight to feel relevant. You now possess gravity. People genuinely feel your presence, your impact, and your authority before they even visually see you, and they remember your effect long, long after you have quietly left the room. That is the fundamental reason why the pretenders constantly talk and broadcast for temporary applause, while you choose to simply act for undeniable, lasting results. And absolutely nothing threatens a calculated manipulator more than encountering a single individual who possesses the unwavering confidence to win the entire game without needing to be seen or validated. Your true power is not on display for cheap viewing. It is powerfully, quietly in effect. The sixth and final vital insight: guard your mind like an unbreachable fortress. Decode manipulation long before it touches your heart. Chosen one, the true, ultimate battleground was never actually your public reputation, your external emotions, or your visible image. It was always, unequivocally, your mind. That is the precise location where they first aimed their initial attacks. Because once a manipulator successfully controls how you fundamentally think and perceive the world, They no longer need literal chains, loud arguments, or threats of any kind. They were desperately hoping you would never realize that the most powerful form of internal protection is not physical distance from others. It is profound discernment. The rare, invaluable ability to accurately recognize hidden and deceptive motives long before they can reach and corrupt your heart is what fundamentally separates those who are easily trapped from those who instinctively know how to set and enforce powerful boundaries without ever needing to speak a confrontational word. You were never meant to be easily accessed by anyone who happens to wander by. Your highly complex and creative mind is not a public hallway for casual traffic. It is a high-security vault, and not everyone who smiles at you deserves to be given the password. Manipulators relentlessly study your reactions for any sign of a weak door or a vulnerability. They test your inherent empathy to locate emotional cracks, and they push subtle, insidious narratives, hoping you will simply swallow them whole as absolute truth. But somewhere along your relentless journey, you develop the rare, potent ability to immediately spot manipulative patterns long before they escalate into painful, debilitating problems. That is the moment when every aspect of your life changed for the better. You no longer automatically accept words at their face value. You now meticulously read the tone, the timing, the body language, the true intention, and the suspicious repetition of their stories. You spot emotional bait with the precision of a trained expert spotting counterfeit currency. And now anyone who approaches you with an unstated, hidden agenda feels an immediate and palpable sensation of walking through an advanced laser security system completely in the dark. One single wrong move, one small lie, and they are instantly exposed by your clear-eyed perspective. Your newfound clarity and powerful intuition are not some lucky, random accidents. They were forged directly from the immense heat of your past negative experiences. You learned the fundamental truth that manipulation does not always announce itself with a shout. Sometimes it hides perfectly disguised within a compliment, a sudden surge of false sympathy, or a calculated, feigned attempt to protect you. So now, you choose to analyze more deeply than you answer, and you quietly observe more carefully than you impulsively reveal. That is the sole reason why they now whisper your name with palpable caution and respect. Your incredible mind is no longer a casually opened door. It has become a fortified drawbridge, and only those who come to you with absolute, transparent honesty will ever be permitted to cross over. As we move toward the final, most satisfying truth, lock this core realization deep within your spirit. You were never truly fighting the battles they staged for shallow validation. You were fighting, from the very beginning, for your complete and magnificent becoming. Every painful setback they engineered ultimately reshaped you into a better form. Every single betrayal they orchestrated simply refined your clarity, and every shallow misunderstanding they manufactured only resulted in a massive upgrade to your unshakable self-awareness. They did not lose you by accident or through a simple mistake. They lost you permanently the very instant they catastrophically misread your dignified silence as a sign of defeat instead of recognizing it as the high-level, sophisticated strategy it was. You are no longer the person they expected to see. You are the fully realized, formidable version of yourself that they absolutely never planned to face. If this entire message resonated with your soul, if you felt it deep in your core, then like the video, subscribe right now, share this message widely, and drop the number 99 into the comments section. Let the world know, with undeniable proof, that the chosen ones are fully awake, aware, and finally taking their true, rightful position.